Hi guys, welcome back to some more Total Warhammer 3. Continuing my Skrag campaign. I've just upgraded Sunken Kernach tier 5, so that's 6 turns and that's fully upgraded. That's my second tier 5 camp. I mean that's upgraded, that'll give me another camp select, which is good.
This place is rotten all over.
And I need 10 more settlements to win this campaign, because I'm only doing the short campaign on this one. I think the only thing with Ogres is that I suppose takes enjoyment out of it for me a little bit, because Ogres would be better in a probably multiplayer campaign of sorts, because Ogres are realistically only neutral faction. They can side with good guys or bad guys. They can go either way. And the good guys and bad guys are also both neutral towards them, so you can do it that way. Where when you're playing somebody aligned with evil or aligned with good, it's more cut and dry who your allies and who your enemies actually are. So from the start of the game, you know, these are allies or potential allies, and these are enemies, you know, straight away. And it's the same with when you're playing evil guys. You know, these are evil guys, they're allies or potential allies, and these are enemies. You know where you're going. So you know where the areas are you want to expand. Where, when you're playing Ogres, like I started out allying with the evil guys. I was allying with the Greenskins and stuff like that, and Vampire Coast. And then because I saw how strong the dwarves were getting, I switched. And then I became allies with the dwarves. And because the factions now aren't confederating as easily as they used to, you've got Belagor's really fucking strong, you've got Karak Kadrin's really strong, and the dwarves are really strong. So you've got all three dwarven legendary lords over here, with, you've still got Ironbrow South, but Ironbrow might become an enemy. But the other three primary dwarf factions are all really strong. I've got a military alliance with Thorgrim. And defensive with other two, I think. It might be Karak Kadrin, yeah, I'm not sure. And it's basically just, I mean, you could play Ogres and just be against everyone if you wanted to, but you could do that with any faction, I suppose. But it's always good in some cases to have some allies. And obviously Ogres do make a shitload of money from trade, so you don't want to be at war with everyone because you're fucking yourself out of a decent source of income. See what they're gonna do. She wounded him. They didn't move their army. Okay. Right, that one's fully upgraded then. That one's done. Also, I think the other thing that puts me off really, really heavily with the ogres, which I think is, well, it's definitely CA's fault, 100%. It's something CA have fucked up on in a big way. Is I don't like how the your small town encampments work, because presently your upper left unit is usually like your acting general, and at the moment it's a noblar unit. And it should be the other way around, with the Iron Gut starting here, then the Ogre Bull dual weapons, the Ogre Bulls, and then go on to the rest of the normal Ogres. And the Noblar should be at the bottom, leading on to the Noblar Trappers. They've got them the wrong way round, because you've got the wrong units in charge, because they shouldn't be your acting general. And even then, in my opinion, I think something they could easily do for every faction in the game, once you've got a tier 3 settlement, it's the very max version, which is what it is for ogres, obviously, you should always get a hero in there as your acting general. I don't care what hero type it is, but if it's a spellcaster, they should have access to some spells, otherwise you get a beastman problem that they had. But there should always be a hero in charge, and anything that's tier 3 or higher should have a hero, be it a beastman herdstone, even if it's a city. But when a city reaches tier 3, you should get a hero. Like, they get Necromancer there from that building. But I think you should have one included as part of the main garrison itself. There should be one hero, and that hero should be kept with it for tier 3, 4 and 5. And that hero should always be in charge and be acting general. And I think they could go one step further, which is give your hero a yellow skill tree. So if they're a fighter, you can make them a better fighter and give them more leadership. And if they're a spellcaster, they get access to their lore of spells, so they can cast more magic as they level up. Obviously, they're only going to level up if they're fighting battles. So they've got to fight battles or win defensive battles, but the option is then there. So they have like a reduced skill tree, they don't need 50 points, but they have like a garrison hero skill tree. And then they could maybe have like a small blue tree where they buff the units in their garrison. Or you have like a, I'm not sure if there's a way to show it in a way. I'm not sure if one of these has got one. But like example like this here. Like this has got like 5 options. So you could have something similar to that, but it could be blue, but it might be more like the Minotaur one, where you have an option to click one and then it can lead on to another, but then it locks out 2 or 3 others. But it can buff certain units in certain ways, and it could give them like, I don't know, more melee weapon strength, more melee attack, and just something on it, more leadership while defending a location point, one of the capture points inside a town or city. The other one could buff range units, and then you could get one that could buff cavalry or something like that, and you can kind of tailor it to the sort of garrison that you actually have, because the garrison's different from faction to faction. They're not all the same. Or it could be something a bit more simple, like it gives general buffs across the board, but if you go into the select tree, like you might have initial buff that buffs all your melee infantry, your monstrous units, your cavalry and your archers, but then you specialise and you can give an extra type of units more buffs, so they do more damage, have greater range, more leadership, or a faster if not range, something like that. So they have something extra because you want to specialise in that type of troop. Because like obviously for ogres in ogre case, I don't want to buff infantry, I want to buff monstrous infantry. I want to buff monstrous units. I don't want to buff regular infantry, I'm not looking to buff fucking noblars. I want to buff ogres. It's ogre kingdoms.
Gonna be over, tyrant, one day.
I want to move this guy back.
Just listen.
Horny Corn is on the way.
Beast killer. Follow the prey. Unhand Corn's herald. Won't stop till everything's mine. Gets me what I want. Bring me
And I was having this as a temporary camp. I'm not sure if to make it a permanent one, I don't know.
do what I say.
Because where it's situated there, it's like a barrier between Zufbar and Drakenhof. If anything comes down this way and takes Zufbar, they've got to go through it to get there, unless they go round. And then vice versa, if anything takes Drakenhof, they've got to take that before they get to Zufbar, unless they go round.
Tyrant of the tribe.
That's the way to use them defensively. I don't think anything's been getting through here though, in all honesty, because there's a lot of dwarves to get through.
The axe thirst.
Fucking hell, how many hammers? Jesus, oh fucking hell, they've got Hellstorm Rocket Battery from the Empire. Oh, they've got mine in there. They've got a scrap launcher. Oh no. I actually won't want to fight that army. That army's quite nasty.
Want everything.
I've got to wait 3 turns, then I can take Mountain Eater and get an 8% ward save for him, which is pretty nice. It's like having Gambler's armour,
Obey me.
but passively. It's pretty cool.
Tyrant.
And with anyone who's new to playing Ogre Kingdoms as well, just as a little bit of advice, obviously if you're playing Skrag, you've got to take Skrag. But if you are recruiting other generals, always, always, always take an Ogre Tyrant. Never take a Slaughtermaster, ever. Because your heroes are both spellcasters. You've got the Firebelly and you've got the Butcher. They both cast spells. And one can have the Lore of the Maw, one can have the Lore of Fire. Personally, as I said, I would say take this guy because you want the punishment for your army. You could take a Firebelly in there as well if you really wanted to. There's nothing stopping you. I just choose not to have 2 spellcasters in an army because we've got so limited winds of magic these days. And the Hunter is 100% your scout. You don't need Hunters in your army. They are your scouts. But your Tyrants are far, far better in combat at what they do. And since you've already got another competent spellcasting type, you don't need a spellcaster for both your Lord as well as in your army. So take a Tyrant, make your army strong and make him strong, and then obviously try and reduce your costs down through your Quartermaster and stuff like that. But always take Tyrants for the other armies. Obviously if you're playing Greasus, Greasus is a Tyrant. So you get a Tyrant sent across the board. But you don't ever want Slaughtermasters.
In charge.
And you still need to kind of take a Butcher in my opinion for the replenishment. Because being that you're a primarily melee focused faction, you are going to take damage. And being able to heal faster or heal in potentially 1 turn, it's a big help to any melee based armies. You always want the hero in there that has casualty replenishment. You don't need more than one of them, but you need one in there. It helps out a lot. So it might be in some cases, let's say you're under pressure from a lot of enemies, you might only get 1 turn to recover. You need to make the most of that 1 turn. So by having the hero in there that's got maxed out casualty replenishment, helps. Some factions also have healing option on their Lord as well. Not all factions do. But if you've got extra points towards the end, I would also consider taking the healing option on your blue tree for your Lord as well. Because that's also another benefit. Because that will stack on top of what your hero's got. And the faster you can heal, the better. Obviously, if you can't get one turn to heal, then you're at the point where you're just under constant attack. In which case, then it's not going to make a difference because you're not going to get a chance to actually heal. But if you can always manage to get that one turn, you need to maximise the value of that one turn. And just make sure you can get in as much healing as possible. And if your units happen to heal to full health, you're on to a fucking win-win. To that point then, if you're back to full health after every battle, you're just going to slap down every enemy army that comes at you. Looks like Grimgor's got fucked from both sides. See, what Grimgor's done here is he's pissed off multiple people. So he's getting hit by the Karak Kadrin and Thorgrim dwarves from one side. From the far side, he's getting hit by both factions of Cathay. And then from the north, he's getting fucked over by Archaon. Now, Grimgor generally is going to be at war with the dwarves anyway. And more than likely is going to be at war with Cathay. Especially considering Greenskins presently can't trade. But they need to in their rework be able to trade at least with each other. And then with ogres. And then I would also argue they should be able to trade with Chaos Dwarves and Dark Elves. Because they are factions that do trade within the law. But at very least, you should be able to trade with the Greenskins and ogres. Because they do trade a lot. A hell of a lot. Ogres and Greenskins, you could make a decent argument for, are closer friends than ogres and the Empire. Even though Greasus in the end time stood alongside the Emperor, Skrag didn't. Skrag actually allied with Chaos, even the opposite direction. I think it might have been to do with his magic. He delved too deep into his magic, but he ended up siding with Chaos. He didn't worship their gods; he still worshipped them more. But he believed it was in the best interest of them more to side with Chaos. What he didn't know was that Chaos planned on blowing up the world, including his own god. If he'd have known that, he probably wouldn't have sided with Chaos in the first place. But the only one who knew that was Archaon and the Chaos gods. And they didn't tell anybody else. Everybody else was left out the loop. Even Archaon's closest lieutenants and bodyguards weren't told what was going to happen. Because end of the day, none of those guys wanted to die. They all wanted to, since they couldn't be the Everchosen, which is only available to one Chaos Lord at a time, with the option then of becoming godhood, they didn't know what it meant for him to get godhood. They didn't know the world had to be destroyed for it. So the best thing they could hope to achieve is demonhood. And if they'd have been demons, they wouldn't have actually died, because they've just been blasted back into the realm of chaos and been able to recorporalize themselves there, with their victory complete on the world. But anyone that wasn't a demon or achieved demonhood, you were basically dead. You were just gone. So Archaon ultimately was an enemy of everyone. And I'm not sure if they knew what he was aiming for with attacking Middenheim. I think they were more concerned about mitigating the damage of the forces of chaos in general. But what they should have done is the forces of good should have surrounded Middenheim, drove out all the Skaven from underneath it, since it was built on top of an old dwarven city, and fortified the fuck out of Middenheim. Empire armies, dwarf armies, high elf, wood elf armies, lizardman armies, Bretonnian armies, everyone should have been invested in the survival of Middenheim. Because they knew if Archaon gets inside, if they knew it was going to blow up the world, everyone should have had armies defending that city. And it's not like you can take down a bucket of water and extinguish the eternal flame. It's called the eternal flame for a reason. And at the end of the day, Archaon was trying to extinguish the eternal flame, which is what happens when he stands in it. He stands in it and extinguishes it, and then it blows up the world, as he becomes the fifth Chaos God and descends. But because his ascension was so powerful and violent, that's why the world was destroyed. And the thing is, well, Middenheim It's probably the most defensible city in the Empire. Easily. It's built upon an old dwarven city, settlement where they used to be. And as dwarves generally do, they build all their stuff in very defensible locations. The thing that makes Middenheim even stronger than most dwarven cities is the humans aren't digging down mines below the city, weakening its foundations, and potentially letting things like Skaven and night goblins in. So it actually makes it stronger in its own way. But they needed to clear the Skaven out from underneath it big time. I think one of the other things that helped result in the downfall of the Empire in the end times was the Emperor and the Witch Hunter General's refusals to admit the Skaven were real. And, well, they knew they were real, but to admit they were real and to admit telling the populace. They thought by telling people there's, giant intelligent rats living below their cities and towns, they'd panic. It galvanised your people getting together to purge the Skaven. You can't have the enemy living below you. As proven, it's a recipe for failure. It's not something you can deal with at all.
Ready to defend the struggle against the great enemy.
She's strength rank 1, 25 settlements, Jesus. And he's strength rank 5 with 29.
Queen of Avalon, what matters do you wish to lay before the Everqueen?
Speak. What would you ask of the Asa?
I'm the main threat? Why am I the main threat?
The Warden of Tor Ivres.
I'm not his main threat.
Do not expect pleasantries. The defense.
Alari.
Greatest of the Dragon Prince, relish this chance to look upon your better.
None. The Boca Palace's doors are open to you.
Actually, I don't think I'll have met him. But there's a chance he
Prince,
might
speak
have.
quickly, for I must not be distracted from my vow.
Is that Nakari?
Tor Ivres expects.
Mistress of the Undying Forest. All are welcome in my court.
That's Belako, right? I've realised, especially when it's people who are further away, a good way to get trade agreements and aggressions, just join in their wars.
The time is now.
They like you for joining in the war, and then you can get the agreements you want. And as with the good guys and like bad guys, when you get an aggression pack, they generally stick. I'm not worried about Battle instead of minor faction, and they'll probably end up getting confederated either by Avalon or Ivres if Tyrion's not around.
The dragon shall wake.
Is he at war with Goldtooth or something? No.
Relish this chance to look upon your better.
Why are you being weird then? Would only be these two, wouldn't it? fucking charming. Well, I got something with the elves. And look at that, I'm pulling in 3,389 from trade. So when you're not able to trade, example like greenskins presently aren't, greenskins losing out on so much trade, even if they could trade with just other greenskins. And they should certainly be able to trade with ogres as well. Ogres literally trade with everyone. Every single faction can trade with ogres. Everyone. But I know in the past the greenskins have done deals with the dark elves. They usually, in some cases, traded slaves for equipment or knowledge or some magical support, things like that. But they've also traded with the Chaos Dwarves. The Chaos Dwarves do imprison greenskins. That's how the Black Orcs came to be, because they were close enough to the Chaos Waste where they got tainted by Chaos. But the Chaos wasn't able to control the greenskins because their God's Gork and Mork wouldn't allow it. So they took the strength the Chaos Taint gave them, but without becoming basically bitches of Chaos. But the greenskins do trade with Chaos Dwarves as well for equipment, generally. Usually weapons and armour, for the most part. They will trade. And the thing that the Chaos Dwarves trade for is the same thing they trade for with the Dark Elves, trade for slaves. So if they have survivors at the end of a battle that are dwarves, humans, elves, or even other greenskin tribes, they can trade them into the Chaos Dwarves to work in the slave mines and slave pits of Zarnagarund, and they'll trade them equipment, both magical runing crafted equipment and non-magical in some cases. That's how some greenskins have got some of their strongest magical armors and weapons from the Chaos Dwarves, and that's how Chaos gets all theirs as well. Yeah, that's him out of it. Raiding? Motherfucker. No. I don't mind him trespassing through my territory, but he's still not allowed to fucking raid me. I have to go and kill that army. I need to do something about Vlad.
Hungry. Always hungry. In charge. I said
I'll move there, I'll drop him into ambush stance. See if that works. Because I need Vlad to leave Templehof. I can't fight him in there with that, because that is not a weak garrison either. There's a lot of Graveguard in there. And then his army's not looking bad either. And he's got Isabella and another vampire hero. And Vlad's level 50 as well. I'll murder my tyrant. Now we've got to deal with this.
Into my meat cauldron. For the guide us. Meat for the chopping. It cools. Great Moors directive. Prophet of the Great Moor.
So like I take healer there as well. Another 6%. Just worth taking. Growth, don't really need. Corruption. These are about the same because you don't need to be corrupt, but corruption is not as detrimental as it was in Warhammer 2, which is a nightmare to get rid of, so I'll take control.
No more. It will bring you meat.
Take that.
The Slayer.
You go up there and keep an eye on that.
Sends us. Unbending.
Looks like Thorax coming himself.
Wandering hunter. Voice of the volcano.
I would have gone to attack them, but that fucker started raiding me. And I don't mind horde armies walking through my territory. I honestly don't mind it. I don't give a fuck about that. As long as they don't raid me. Once they start raiding me, that's it. Mr. Nice Spectre's going out the window. I don't like being raided because it costs me public order and it's costing me money. And sometimes depending on the faction, like if it's beastmen, they can raid you and they cause attrition while they're raiding you in the area. Even though you're not like, I've got like loads of corruption or something. So then if you're walking through it, you're taking attrition from your own zone. I don't do it being raided. They can walk through my zones, but you're not fucking raiding me. Right, I'm going to call this part here. I hope you guys have enjoyed. If you have, leave a like. If you're new around here, please drop a subscription. Help grow the channel. It's free. And I'll catch you on the next video. Take care, everyone.